one, and wrong button. And we are recording a tale of two Toms, both injured, and perhaps with our powers combined, we'll have the mental capacity of one Tom. But Mr. Luongo, please introduce yourself for all the new listeners.
Sure, Tommy. My name's Tom Luongo. I'm the proprietor and publisher of Gold Goats and Guns, which is both a podcast and a newsletter and a blog and many other things. And Gold Goats and Guns is the thing that I do that tries to make sense of this insane world. And that's what I do.
Yeah,
that's where we are.
Yeah, and yeah, for anybody watching, I'm wearing these stupid sunglasses because I was concussed last week. I hate how they look, and that's the only reason I bring it up is because I look like a douchebag with them, more so than normal.
That's your Thug Life classes, dude.
Hey man, it's Thug Life, brain damage, but Thug Life, weetard, but yeah, man, in terms of trying to make sense of everything, is there any sense to be made? Is there really anything but to do but I guess acquire gold, livestock, and ammunition and go hide in the hills?
It's a good start. I'll be honest with you. But at the same time, you also need to have people around you. You can't do it all by yourself. The theme here going forward from here, we're kind of out of the prep phase, right? We're out of that. For 5 years now, I've been trying to tell people that you got to get emotionally and mentally and as economically prepared as possible to deal with what could be a very, very trying period, and it's shaping up that's going to be a very trying period. And I think I think about today and I think about where we are, and I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today before I sat down to in front of the microphone. Have we reached that moment where now the prep is over? Because I can feel it this morning. I was telling my wife before we started recording, I'm having a real hard time this morning. I got off the wrong side of the couch, and I was just like, I'm at the point now where I feel like I'm bipolar. Like one day I think we're going to get out of this, and they're desperate, and all of these terrible oligarchs are desperate, and they're just lashing out in every direction. And the next day I look and I see them, assiduously putting pieces in place to kill hundreds of millions of people, and I'm like, I don't like being tossed in a tempest, an emotional tempest, back and forth that way. And even though you've spent, me personally, I've spent maybe the last 15, 18 years getting prepared for this. Now that you're in it, it's still really difficult to process. And you can see the toll that it's taking on everyone around you every day. So that includes myself. And, I'm not surprised that I finally succumbed to COVID the first time I ventured out of the house and into public and, for 2 days and, fell apart. Why? Because, there comes a point where all of your coping mechanisms become inadequate. Mm-hmm. And you're just faced with the reality of all this. So all I can tell everybody is I think we're out of the prep phase and we're now in it. And the toll is going to be taken on us. And, now it's an endurance. Now it's just a matter of endurance. And can you get through this? And you're not going to get through it without other people. Yeah. And you're not going to get through it without communicating with other people and building as many bonds as possible and the rest of it. So I think that's all very important.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of that sort of like bipolar nature. I mean, some days it's like, oh, they are, like you said, they're just moving the chess pieces around and you can see it all falling apart. And then other days I see so many people more aware and awake and discussing this stuff than I ever have before in my short life. I'm 31. Right. And I'm like, oh, this is like, this is going to be the comeback story. This is the Mighty Ducks. This is now comes the good part, right? You got to have the shitty middle part of the movie. I'm still not entirely sure. I've been so surprised before in my life that for me, it's like a personal thing that I'm like, you never have it figured out. Like me personally, Tommy, I'm like, no matter what it is, like every time you've thought you've had it figured out, for better or worse, mm-hmm. I've never been correct. So that's kind of where I am. I don't quite know.
Right. And I'll be honest with you, Tom. I have at many times in the past felt like I had it figured out.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't, I'm not going to sit here, bust my hand, patting myself on the back or anything, but, you know, you get to a point where which you see through, you know, the veil, right? Once you can see the code that they're operating under, and now you can watch the code. And it's like the Matrix metaphor is brilliant, but it really is. They have a code, you know, they have a script that they run. Once you can see the code, then you can, you know, you can react in real time to it, and you can try to explain what the code is to people. But even then, I can see the code, I can say no, I can do all that, I can make the bullets fall, I can do all that stuff, and it doesn't matter. One gets through every once in a while.
Yeah.
And there's still plenty of people, you know, who aren't ready to take that moment and go, yeah, I'm willing to see the code for what it is, and then stand next to you and go, okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's say no to these people. I don't know that it's not going to still just be an overwhelming situation. And the normalcy bias is a very terrible thing. And, you know, I know in this space, like we like to deride normies, like, well, the truth of the matter is they're normies for a reason. They've got a normalcy bias. They don't want to see that code, because there's two things involved in that. And I don't blame people for feeling this way. Don't take this as any kind of judgment, which is one, you know, they don't want to believe that the world is as evil and as horrible as it actually is. That's one, because then two, that implies if they see themselves as good people who want to fight injustice and fight wrongs and do the right thing and be on the right side of the moral argument, that implies that they have to do something about it. It implies action, it implies some kind of responsibility on their part if they see themselves as a good person. So if they don't want to if that is overwhelming and that's scary, well, then they're just going to reject the seeing of the code in the first place. And then that dynamic is what you're constantly fighting within people. And it's a very slow and difficult process until you get them through to that moment where they go, yeah, don't really have any other options anymore now, do we? No, we really don't. And every day that they push us farther and farther and farther towards that kind of ugly conclusion, the more people wake up at a kind of an exponential rate. But the question is, by then, is it too late? You know, I know that, like, for example, just the vaccines, for example, have woken so many people up, you know, as to, you know, why these things, they pushed all of this on us, and then, you know, or done to them, not on to me. And then, you know, to find out that they don't confer any long-term benefit, and they have all these potential health problems down the road. And they've, you know, everybody now, I think more people now probably know somebody who has a massive health complication from a COVID vaccine than they do of somebody who died of COVID or complications due to COVID. Right. So I you know, and once you reach that kind of critical mass shift, like, what do you know, how do they control you now? And that anger is going to be, you know, it's going to be inconsolable. It's going to be it's going to be very dangerous once it's finally unleashed. And I think we could see that at Davos this week. That's what they were talking about. They're like, how do we contain the anger and the violence that we've engendered in the general populace now?
When you unleash,
definitely a theme at Davos this year.
Yeah, when you unleash the fire, it will turn into a forest fire eventually. Yeah, and the forest fire doesn't give a shit if it's your cabin or the other cabin. No, but Mr. Fire, I started you. It's a fire.
It's fire. And look at what's happening in New Mexico, where the government starts like the largest forest fire in the state's history, you know, in a controlled burn, and like doing it badly. Yeah, because these people are bad at land management, and they're bad at it. They're bad at everything. And it's just I keep watching this. This is just Atlas. This is just Act 3 of Atlas Shrugged over and over again. Incompetent people and incompetent people mixed with vandals running around doing really terrible things and having control like over their own children, over systems and power that they shouldn't have, making terrible mistakes with people's lives. And, you know, hundreds of people, and we're staring at hundreds of millions of people going to die. And I don't know what else to do other than, you know, not say it. And then and you can't feel it, because there's no way to feel that. So I don't know what to do.
To maybe go, but yeah, what you said about incompetence, And I remember when I was like younger, and I'd always try to play like Sim City, and I was
Mhm.
terrible at it. And so I'd get like my older brother to like play it, and right, and he'd or better example, forget even him playing it. You didn't have to start like one of the things you could do is you could kind of cheat and you can kind of like inherit a city. It was like
Mhm.
a starter thing. It was like, Simsville or whatever. And it'd be like a grown city. And you just kind of came in halfway through and was like, now manage it.
Right.
And yeah, it was being in charge of this system and having no merit to be there. Because no
Mhm.
matter what I did, it was always the same ending. I would run up all the loans. There would be riots in the streets. Eventually, the nuclear reactor would break down, and then there would just be tornadoes, and I'd say fuck it and restart. But like, but like, versus like when I'd watch my older brother play, I'd watch him start and like meticulously build the city, and
Mhm.
he wouldn't try to pre-plan everything. It would be like zoning for this and water pipes here, and it would be it wasn't pretty, but it was like this very organically run thing, and he could get it. Versus me, I inherit it, and I'm like, we need skyscrapers and nuclear fusion reactors, and it's you get the little ping, and it'd be like, there's no money for cops, and I'd be like, well, fuck it, I don't care, and just like, and the thing would implode, and I'd get so upset about it, but like, it's kind of like that. It seems like yeah, we're watching these people in control of this machine that you know although they
Yeah.
were like evil, at least like the deep state of the 50s and 60s, at least they were competent. Like sure, they
Yeah.
blew Kennedy's head off, but like you had the Dulles brothers, right? You had all
Right.
like the all the LeMay and that whole military industrial elite.
Right.
The elite now just seem like the bratty kids that inherited the halfway built Sim City.
Yeah, no, that's a great metaphor. That's a great way of looking at it, and it's another way of. I saw it this morning. One of my, comment from one of my patrons in our private Slack server said something along the same lines of saying like, you had, they're third generation wealth,
Yeah.
right? And third generation wealth always squanders the inheritance of the hard bitten assholes who built the wealth in the first place, the original Andrew Carnegies and Rockefellers and whatnot, and those guys. Now that we're into their grandkids, they're just trying to figure out whether they're trying to decide whether they should blow the money on hookers and blow, or should they virtue signal that they're still good people and we should save the world from climate change. And like it all winds up being exactly the same damn thing, and none of it because they inherited this wealth. They didn't earn it.
Uh-huh.
They weren't, and that's part of it. And I think the other side of it is that, like we have succumbed to this siren's call of technocracy, of the tyranny of the expert. Doesn't matter what the field is. You listen to somebody talk, no matter what you watch, these video clips of little lefties going into, like, I don't know, Talking Points USA with Charlie Kirk, whatever. I watched a couple of these recently, and they always come in and they always have a chip on their shoulder, and they always say, well, what about this in terms of gun control, blah blah blah, blah. And then he gives them statistics back, and then her response is, well, are you a sociologist?
Yeah,
Like, I need to
appeal
be a
to authority.
sociologist to interpret data. I'm not a moron. I don't have to have a degree, or I have to have a PhD in order to be able to assess data.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is a typical, no offense, it's a typical millennial attitude of, well, you don't actually know anything. You just Google shit and think you're informed.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a terrible way of living, because you don't actually know how to critically evaluate information for its own sake and then do something with it, because you constantly have to have somebody else tell you whether or not your opinion is valid or not. Like, no, your conclusion can be valid because you're a person with a brain and you assess the information. Now, you may get it wrong, but this is how you learn how to assess information better and better and better. It's by putting yourself out there, making a conclusion, and then running that conclusion, and then deciding on, and then dealing with the consequences of the action that you took based on that conclusion, as to whether it was going to work or not going to work. This is the way the world works. And experts don't know anything more than you do,
Yeah.
other than they have slightly more training in that particular field on that particular vector. But every problem in life cannot be reduced to a single independent variable. This is I'm a trained scientist. I to remind you that 25 years as a bench chemist, high energy physics, as an undergraduate, they call us chemists, but we're really high energy physicists and spectroscopists. Like, I've done this. I've done like serious fucking science, real fucking science. And I can tell you that, like, you have to realize that there's limits to the scientific method. There's limits to the way in which you falsify a hypothesis along a single vector when controlling for all other variables. That is a limiting process. It is not the only way to create knowledge in the universe. It's actually a very limited way of creating knowledge in the universe, and it's most applicable directly in the physical sciences.
Yeah.
And in almost no other environment.
Yeah. To matter.
And we live in this world where these people have misapplied positivism, have misapplied the scientific method in every facet of our lives, most especially monetary policy. I mean, I love Jordan Peterson, but I got news for you. Every time he starts going off on statistically, when we know this, and this in psychology, I'm like, no, we don't, Jordan. Like, seriously, you guys are not real scientists. You ape like you're real, you LARP like you're real scientists, but you're not. Like, please, like, stop. The physicist in the room is getting angry.
Yeah.
Like, because the physicist knows how to really do controlled experiments. You can't control enough in a human psychological experiment because there's too many degrees of freedom.
Yeah.
There's just are. Human beings are a mass of contradictions and degrees of freedom that can't be controlled for. And while you can come close and you can make some interesting observations, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but you should understand what the fucking limits are at every moment and every turn. And you should never, ever, ever present that information as if it's any kind of gospel truth, because it's not. It's at best a gross statistical probability that's more akin to, in the physical world, something like organic synthesis. Like when you're trying to synthesize organic compounds in organic chemistry, you always talk in terms of percent yield, because there's like, there's a reaction pathway, but there's like 6 other competing reaction pathways at those temperatures and pressures. Well, it doesn't mean that just because this one's the dominant one doesn't mean that it's the only one. It means you're going to get 70. You can control that to about 70 or 75% yield, and you're going to get 25% of crap that you don't want. Now you have to figure out how to purify out the 25% of the crap that you made that you didn't want to get to the 75% of the stuff you did want. And in many ways, I think using the scientific method and the social sciences is kind of the same thing. You have to be very, very careful in how you approach that stuff. And then, and this is the fundamental problem with the theory of Davos and the conceits of these people that think that they can 75%, model your behavior, and that's good enough for them to plug into a big data array and run some fucking inappropriate Fourier transform on and come up with an answer. Like, why did you do that? Oh, because Fourier transform, sounds good, let's do it. Like, no, that's for acoustic signals, you fucking moron. But whatever. Like, this is the kind of thing we're dealing with. Like, this is the kind of stuff that goes through my head all day long while I'm watching this playing out, and it gets really, really, really frustrating after a while just to go, oh, okay, and really what it comes down to is you're just trying to come up with reasons as to why you think, why you're trying to bamboozle people into saying, look, I just need to run the world because I need to run the world.
Yeah.
Because I'm a freaking narcissist control freak. Oh, okay. Why don't you just admit that in the first fucking place?
Yeah.
It'll be a lot easier that way. Now, let's go into the octagon and fight it out and figure out who's going to win.
Yeah. I was going to say, but what you're saying about like the synthesis, that was one thing that always kind of fucked with me in OChem was going from like the book. I loved the book. I hated the lab. So going into the lab and realizing that I was like, that you don't get 100% this. They're like, well, it's actually, you're getting like 88% this. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, I get 9% this and 9. And I was, whoa. And like the OCD in me was like, this isn't, what are you talking? Even with like atomic spectroscopy, it'd be like, it's this wavelength. And they'd be like, yeah, except for when it's not. I'm like, well, what do you mean? But like, but that was hard. But even there, OChem was my favorite class because even over the other ones, like physiology or something, with OChem, it was, with the exception of math, it was the most like predictable, and it probably said something more about my own like psyche and instability, but like that I could just plug this in here, and you get this. And once you moved out to physiology, it was like, well, now you add this hormone there, but we also don't know something going wrong with the heart. And you're like, oh, wait. Yeah. And then you back up more, and then you get to groups of people instead of organ systems, and you get to cities and states. And then there's all these other like, well, you didn't factor in corruption. It's like, well, how do you
didn't factor in like, the pull,
what's the variable of that? Yeah. And then technological growth. And when you zoom all the way out, You go,
and the
how?
changes to the magnetic field engendered because of a solar flare. And we
Yeah,
can go on and on and on and on and on.
yeah,
I'm I'm my background in as an undergraduate and in general, I'm a physical chemist, like
yeah.
doing laser spectroscopy and fundamental analysis of like transition metal rare gas clusters as an undergraduate. This is the shit that I did.
Yeah.
I Organic synthesis to me was maddeningly frustrating simply because I wasn't any good at it, because it required a level of attention to detail and fine tuning of control of the reaction conditions to get higher percentage yield. I mean, I got I walked out. If I got C's in my organic synthesis lab, I was good because I passed. That's all that
I,
mattered.
I want to interrupt real quick and
Sure.
say I had one of my roommates who was like a year ahead of me, brilliant 4.0 kid, physician
Right.
now, and I remember he had finished OChem 1 and OChem 2 and then went on to the higher level classes, and I was starting OChem 1 and I lived with him, and I remember texting him before my first exam and I said, Pat, like, can you give me any tips? And he said, carbon makes 4 bonds except when it doesn't. And to me, that's like the guiding principle of really what all of this has turned out to be. Is like, this is how it works, except for when it doesn't. Sorry for interrupting you. But
oh no, you're absolutely right. No, I didn't realize you had a background. So I'm actually like happy to chat because I never get to chat about this stuff. I'm always having to chat about Federal Reserve and all this other crap. And I'm like, and I'm just I don't. I'm going to talk to Dave Coloma for my podcast tomorrow, and we'll probably geek chemistry a little bit tomorrow, and I'll remind everybody that I'm still a BS level chemist and not a PhD or department head or anything like that. I never took it that seriously. To me, I got to a point in chemistry where it was a good job, it was a good career for a while until it wasn't, because carbon makes 4 bonds until it doesn't. And then it became a metaphor for a lot of the other things in my life that I find interesting as a means by which to create great metaphors with which to write about in order to talk about the things that I care about today. That's what I use it for mostly. But I still get the odd question from people every once in a while. So what happens if I do this and this? I'm like, well, it's inorganic chemistry. It's really brutal brute force stuff. You're going to mix this and this, and you're going to get that. In organics, you're going to get a lot of that and some of this and some of this other stuff over there. And oh yeah, that's all cool. Then, it's just because, once you start getting into molecules that are that big, the amount of the everything just becomes fuzzier. Everything just becomes, harder because, there's more entropy in the system. And when there's more entropy in the system, there's more potential for drift. When there's more degrees of freedom, which is entropy, right? And Boltzmann's definition, K equals KL and omega, right? S equals KL and omega, which is omega being the number of degrees of freedom in the system and K being Boltzmann's constant. It's the equation of absolute entropy. And if you don't understand why that equation is so important and why Boltzmann killed himself after he derived it,
didn't he come up with the Boltzmann brain?
What's that?
Was that the guy that came up with the idea of the Boltzmann brain?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I remember looking that up one day on like Wikipedia, and I was like, I don't know how I got it. I would just go down rabbit holes. Yeah, Boltzmann, and it was
that's Boltzmann. That's he's the man.
In like any like sufficiently large enough universe, eventually a self-aware brain will spontaneously arise.
I've never actually gone that route. That's interesting. I didn't.
I always just remember it because it just sounds so weird to Boltzmann brain.
Well, because Boltzmann, we all know, as chemists, right, and as physicists, we all know Boltzmann's constant, right, which is used to normalize kinetics, right? But the big one for me was when we sat down to learn that Boltzmann's real contribution to science was the equation for describing absolute entropy, not the change in entropy as we learn in the Gibbs free energy equation, which is a thermodynamic process, right, where the change in entropy, the change in disorder in the system determines the free energy change, the potential spontaneity or the lack of spontaneity of a particular chemical reaction, be it an enthalpy driven, heat driven, or entropy driven, disorder driven reaction. But the equation of absolute entropy, which is S equals S, not delta S, capital S equals Boltzmann's constant times the natural log of the number of degrees of freedom in the system, is the thing that Boltzmann spent most of his life working out. And then when he finally did figure it out, he killed himself. Like, like, because there it is, there's the universe. I mean, because the implications of that are massive. Like it's a massive implication of the of how little you actually know about the way the world works and how little control you actually have over everything. And this is kind of the limit of what humans can really, wrap their brain around and figure out how to systems that you can manage. And the truth of the matter is that you can manage very, very, very little. And going back to the SimCity analogy from before, I know I haven't played SimCity in God knows how long. I remember when it first came out. I'm old enough to remember when SimCity first came out, and then they put out Sim Earth and all this stuff. And I've played multiple versions of SimCity in my life, and I sound like your brother. I would just start with a bulldozer and $100 and start organically building stuff, and then constantly kind of regentrifying old neighborhoods and moving stuff around and constantly tweaking it and keeping it on the verge of complete insanity. And then every once in a while stopping the clock and taking a step back and going, wow, look at this thing. This thing's cool.
Yeah.
I have no idea where, any of these people go to work, but they make it all work. And, and even in its crudity as a model, I think SimCity is a great, is a great humility lesson for a great number of people. But they're games like that. There are so many games like that today that are out there. And I was over Christmas break with my daughter this year. We played a little independent game called Timberborn, which is your beavers doing basically SimCity with beavers.
Sure.
And like insane. And then and we sat down and started building a thing together. And that's what we did for a couple of days over Christmas break as a kind of family thing. And it was great. We had fun. And then my daughter proceeded to show me the thing that she'd built. And I'm like, you're insane. And you had too much time in your hands. You need a job.
Yeah. But it's once you could get the systems going, it was almost like a weird rhythm. It wasn't that you were controlling, because you could, no mind could granted you could pause time like you said, but I was gonna say maybe this is like maybe we could learn from this eventually after the nth time that I had one of these pre-made cities, because then when I would try to create them on my own, my OCD would just smother it. I would just start out from one corner of the map, and I'd literally just start with water pipes, and I would make the entire map a big water pipe. And I'd be like, all right, now there's water everywhere.
Now there's water. Now we can build houses.
Yeah. And I would start then with like these perfect square, and then very quickly I'd run out of money. But so when I'd start to get these like pre-made cities, after however many times, I eventually had a tactic. I understood that I was not ever going to run this thing successfully. That I had a limited amount of time to save myself. And so what I would do is I'd spend a ton of money on terraforming. So I'd create like a huge lake or something, and I'd make an island out in the middle of it. I'd flatten it, and I'd put like a castle, and I would surround it with like walls, and there'd be like bridges, and I put the military base out there. I put all the police
in for preparation for the day when your mismanagement of the city collapses, and now you have to like keep out the ravening hordes of zombies.
And there was one road. There was like one road, and it was me and like a 2,000-foot. I mean, literally, like the Empire State Building couldn't touch it. It was just a chasm of death, and it went to the city. And then I would just sit back in my little place and just watch that thing eventually destroy. And then I would just get rid of the bridge, and I'd be like, I'm out here. I have farms. I'm out. And I now realize, I'm like, is that not exactly what's going on? The elite are just going to their own bunkers with their own food supplies, their own water. Eventually I realized, I was like, there's no winning this thing. I would just go prepare.
Yeah, no, I think this is I didn't expect this conversation to go this way today, but this is.
I never have any idea where these are going.
No, this is good. This is.
I'm wearing sunglasses. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Come on now, but
no, I think this is. I think I think we're onto something very interesting here, which is that but they aren't done trying to control everything.
No.
But they are because they do believe that I think they're at the stage now where they can retreat to their bunkers effectively, set the things in motion to destroy as many people as possible, because they know that they can control a much smaller group of people.
Yeah.
They believe that if they can get everything down to 500 million or 1 billion people, that they can keep control over that indefinitely. So they can keep that kind of mid-sized 25 to 30,000 person city in SimCity. They can keep that running, whatever it is, but they'll never, but the megalopolis or the New York version, you can create in my world, you can create something like, Daytona Beach, but you can't create Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
And create a city of, the equivalent of like 500,000 people, but you can't create a 3.5 million sprawling city across multiple bridges and different boroughs and all this other stuff. Like, you're not going to be able to do it. So they need to just simplify and just say, well, you know what, we'll just cut off the rest of the city and we'll just take that area on the beaches in the northern Jacksonville and we'll call it good, and everything else, everything west side 95 just needs to die, right? And and then we can control that. And I think that that's probably where they are, and they're just trying to limit the amount of damage that blows back on them at this point. Now, I don't remember if I said this to you the last time I was on your show, but part of me, one of my mantras is that I belong to guillotines and rope makers, and I've been saying this for quite a long time now. I don't think they're going to get out from underneath this. I think everybody is awake enough to understand who did this to us and who's did it to them. And that once the children really start dying, that's when people start getting radicalized. When you have enough parents, there's a bunch of pussy men out there walking around scared to death with their fanny packs on and their dad bods going, things aren't that bad. I'll keep protecting my kids by going to work every day. And I'll keep doing the thing. I'll keep doing the enduring thing. And in many ways, it's the enduring thing that my dad did during the 70s. Going to work every day to, as a cop in New York City. And I understood a lot of why my dad continued to do that up until he finally retired. But, and he made a trade-off, and you could see that trade-off killed it, spiritually. You could see it because he understood what was happening. And in the same way that I can see this trade-off today for myself and my family, doing in many ways somewhat the same thing. There's going to come a point where we're all going to have to just kind of look up, and there's going to be enough of us where you couldn't protect your child. You couldn't protect your wife. You failed. Now what? Every one of those guys becomes another, becomes a radical that they're going to have to eliminate. And I'm sorry, but they're minting them faster than they can eliminate them. And at some point, and they know it. And when I listened to some of the panel discussions that I saw over at Davos and over at the World Health Organization Forum in Geneva this week, the global World Government Forum was whatever the hell they were doing. Typical, technocratic circle jerk of
all just
basically the globalist chug and tug is, I think, the best way to put it. I'm like, when I can see that, like, I know how close we are to a tipping point on that's not going to come back, but the amount of damage they'll do in the process is going to be horrific.
I think you made a great point when you said they're minting them faster. I hadn't thought about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always think, back to like, was it Ron Paul, his idea of like blowback, where it's like we have these repercussions from actions, but a lot of the actions were done covertly, so the American people don't even know it. So when you're like, why do they want to come blow up America? And it's like, well, you put a Hellfire missile in the center of their wedding. But you don't know that. And I mean, in a weird way, and I say this as someone that like loves the United States, there's almost some positivity that comes out of looking at Vietnam or the war on terror, because you go, the mighty American hegemon, we can nuke you from orbit. We lost to guys with sandals and AKs twice because we minted them faster than we could squash them. If that happened twice already, why would it? Let's just look at patterns as scientists. Let's just look at patterns and go.
And let's ask ourselves what happens when you're dealing with 140 million well-armed Russians.
Yeah, and we're not even talking about one nation. What happens when the top are doing it to the world? That's a whole lot different. And it's kind of like the third generation wealth. They're not the same. If we were going up against the Dulles brothers, Curtis LeMay, James G. Zangleton, I'd be like, oh, we're fucked.
We're going up against General Milley.
Yeah, we're not even going up against the sons that, at least cut their teeth. We're going up the third generation of guys. We're going up against the guys who inherited the Sim City, and they're going, you're gonna do this and you're gonna do that, and the Sims push back, and all of a sudden they go, hey, this guy with sunglasses is retarded. He has no idea how to run the city.
That's right.
That's what it is. I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, the emperor, everybody, we talk about the emperor has no clothes. We talk about, all these metaphors and all these stories, but, and we can see that, and we can see that that they've opened up the man behind the curtain, and he's just some old fart in a banana hammock and a Bond villain, moo. And you're like, well, okay. Why does he still think he has that much power? Oh, because he has power over the levers. He's, paying people to install apps on your phone. He's got the corporations, CEOs in his back pocket and all this, that, and everything else. Okay, fine. But you know what happens when there's not regular, reliable electricity because you've decided that we're not allowed to have nice things and we can't have access to the first world sanitation, electricity, and food. Well, then everybody turns on each other. No one's looking at their iPhones anymore. And you've now broken the spell.
Yeah.
And the smart ones never used an iPhone in the first place. And once that order starts to break down, got news for you, dude. I've been saying this forever. Klaus Schwab is not going to die to some radicalized dude like me whose child died from the complications of COVID vaccine. He's going to die at the hand of his driver, whose daughter died from complications from not being able to get proper medical care or proper dental care because he didn't pay him enough. Okay. Because he didn't take good enough care of it, or because he just finally looked over and realized that it wasn't his daughter, his driver's daughter, that died. It was his sister's first cousin or whatever. And, family bonds still matter to people. And at some point there's going to be a reckoning, and that's that. And then, I was talking to Garland Nixon and Crypto Rich yesterday. I did a thing with them yesterday, and we were talking about vote fraud. And, we were talking about 2,000 Mules, the next News movie, and what's to say that this is not going to happen again? Well, I'll tell you flat out why it's not going to happen again. Everybody knows that you're doing it. You're not going to be able to buy mules at $2 to $3 a vote this time. Because to go harvest those votes in a lot of these neighborhoods where everybody knows you're doing it, it's going to cost you a C-bill, dude.
And how many?
You're going to have to put Benjamin, Alexander Soros is going to have to put Benjamins on the table, not Lincolns, in order to get votes, in order to stuff the ballot boxes. And then there's going to be a whole bunch of real asshole, Proud Boy, Oath Keeper types standing there at the drop boxes going, "What you doing?
Yeah.
How many ballots you got there?"
Yeah.
And then, making citizens arrest and beating the crap out of people.
Or people just hanging. I mean, how many people are going to be just hanging out through the night? Be like, yeah, no, we've got some Swiss Miss and coffee. We're just staying up all night. Party.
Yeah, no, I mean,
what's that van doing at 3 a.m.?
Yeah.
Why is that van
that guy
here?
And look, I got news for you. Those mules are going to drive up to those boxes, and there's going to be a guy like,
the GoPro. What's up, bro?
Not even with maybe with a GoPro, but he's gonna with a buzz cut and and an iPhone going, what you doing there? And they're just gonna speed right off. And those ballots are never going to make it into those boxes. And eventually it's going to cost too much, and those ballots are just not going to get counted, and the whole thing's going to collapse. I've been saying also that, not only will Klaus Schwab likely die to his driver or somebody like that, his food taster, or this, that, and everything else, but that George Soros and his son, Alexander, are going to wind up penniless, because Soros is so completely committed to his vision of a world order, and is willing to spend every dollar he makes and every dollar he steals in order to buy the influence necessary to put your sons and daughters into Ukraine to kill Russians.
He's trying to fucking play some city.
He's eventually going to spend all of his money on his obsession, on his white whale. And, it's going to destroy him. And at some point, once it gets to a point where the lies are too expensive to maintain, no one will take Alexander Soros's phone call. And I think that day is far closer than people want to believe. And it's not because Soros has that much money, because he really doesn't in the grand scheme of things. Not for the amount of money, not for the amount of influence that he peddles.
Yeah.
I mean, he's peddling billions of dollars worth of influence. He's got to go out there. He's going to make that shit every day. He's going to have those hedge funds cranking out, levered, one-way levered trades on a daily basis, and the liquidity is drying up, but there's nobody else to suck the money from. because the Federal Reserve told him go fuck himself, and there's no dollar liquidity in the world over right now. And he's screaming, he's bitching, and it's awesome. And I'm like, like nothing makes me happier than watching that guy like beg, going, turn the machines back on, like Don Amici at the end of fucking Trading Places.
On another side note, quick interruption. I think I asked you last time. I asked everybody this. Do you ever listen to Tim Dillon?
No, I don't.
The fucking funniest comedian in the world. But I was listening to one of his old episodes, and he's talking about like, when you're a Rothschild or an Illuminati member, and your kid comes home from Harvard and says, "I think I want to be a painter," he goes, "Do you know what your dad does? Your mom and dad take their goat masks off, and in the big Bavarian castle where they're sacrificing kids and drinking their adrenochrome, and they go, 'Do you know how much money this costs? Do you know how much money this costs to run the world? We've been doing these seances for thousands of years. Hey, the Pope doesn't look the other way for nothing. You're going to go back to Harvard, and you're going to go to Goldman Sachs, just like your father did, and like your father's father did.'" But the idea is like, these as monolithic and immovable as these systems seem.
Yes.
They aren't. And what we're saying, and I've brought this up before, I've said it before with Pat Scopoletti, about how they can't do it again. We've already seen how they stole it.
Right. Yeah.
To me, there's a beauty, because I think they will do it again, because it's the third generation. The first generation would go, hey, a Dulles brother would go, "You can't shoot him in the head again in a Cadillac. Right. We already did that. We got to come up with something else. We got to have John Hinckley come at him."
Right.
A third generation,
nope,
they're going to try to Dealey Plaza it the next day.
I know, like that's all they ever do. They have one. They have. I say, they're very smart, but they're not very clever. They just keep doing the same thing. Soros's last 5 color revolutions have failed, and they've all failed the exact same way. Putin has preempted the color revolution process by advising the sitting government to aggressively stop the protest on the public square and take the friggin' PR hit, and let the West twist in the wind, and let the Brits, scream bloody murder and do their tabloid thing, and ignore it, and just put the ringleaders in fucking jail, break this thing, and declare all the NGOs illegal.
Yeah.
And it worked in Armenia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It keeps happening over and over again, because he knows how to beat the color revolution situation. Okay. Soros pumps billions of dollars into radicalizing the younger generation through the educational system and through and uses the colleges as the hotbed for this stuff, along with the State Department and everything else. And they throw a bunch of money in, they wait for an election. They preset preload the narrative that the election is going to be fake, blah, 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 blah. Someone like Lukashenko does the dumb thing and actually stuffs the ballot box a little bit, which he didn't need to do. And so they get to play the game. They control all the NGOs, they control the media, and then they just try and create a thing that's not real. They're trying to create an astroturfed revolution from the top down. The last one that succeeded was in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And all the rest of them have failed miserably. And you can complain about, and they do nothing but complain about it. And every time they lose their minds a little bit more. And the shit's expensive trying to run the world. And you're going to go back to Goldman Sachs. Like, I love take the goat mask off.
Yeah. Hey. Do you know how long we've been doing this? Do you know how long we've been blackmailing kings and queens? You are not going to be a painter. Do you know how much it costs to heat this Bavarian castle? And do you know how much Bohemian Grove costs?
I know.
You got to rent that whole area.
These Bavarian castles, man, don't have internal heat. They're big and they're stone. There's a lot of we gotta cut a lot of old growth forest down to heat this fucking place.
And it's very specific wood. That's the only way the spirits come in.
Exactly.
And look at the Aztecs. They understood the price of this stuff. These robes, these are expensive robes. We don't get these. You got to have the most innocent of kids in order for the demons to show up. Someone just popping into this podcast right now is going to click on this clip and then tune out and never come back. But what is this all about? Oh, you got to eat the kids. And it's like, all right. But the thing is I was going to say about the ballots, but so looking for ballots. They're gonna break it. Yeah. Okay. So 2020, it was you can't really do that again because it was this sort of perfect storm of just you had the people foaming at the mouth, Trump bad. You
Right.
had them all, George Floyd, Donald Trump personally killed George Floyd. You're like, oh wow, I didn't know that. And then you have COVID, and there's all these people dead, and it's because of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's telling people to take horse medication and blah blah blah. We got to social distance. We can't you go to the ballot boxes. We can't. And then as soon as you could tell it was coordinated because you instantly start getting the blue labels, right? The appeal to authority on every YouTube video. AP has not yet called the election.
Right.
There was not widespread fraud, and they could do it, and they'd ban people like me, or they'd ban a Steven Crowder, or they'd ban whoever, like just
Right.
anyone bringing up this, get off Alex Jones, get off Milo, get off everyone. You can't. Project Veritas gone. You could do it, and you could have them put the labels on Trump's Twitter. That was all brand new, and it was effective. You can't do that now because now people have seen that ivermectin didn't turn Joe Rogan into a horse. They can
Right.
see now that, oh, there was a lot of fraud. People are seeing even just through Ukraine. They're going, how quickly did we learn that the ghost of Kyiv was bullshit, or that Snake Island was bullshit?
Right.
Or so we're going through all of this. I don't see how they're gonna pull it. I think they're gonna do the same thing,
And they're not going to pull it off.
but it's not gonna work.
Right.
Now, my concern is, do they know that, and do they not give a shit? And they go, "What? Let's kick up some dust. There's gonna be revolutions. There's gonna be Proud Boys watching the ballots.
Yep.
Let them fight. We back into the or is that our justification to roll out martial law, insurrection?"
It's very clear that they're going to do something.
Yeah.
And I'm at the point now where I hate to say that I'm out of the prediction business on this front, because there's too many variables. There's too many ways it could go. There's too many ways it could play itself out. Once you unleash chaos, trying to predict what the chaos is going to look like is a fool's game, because chaos is chaos. You can't control chaos by definition. Therefore, you can't predict what it's going to do. You don't know how it's going to play out. Those are all good questions you're asking, Tommy. I'm not going to lie to you. These are all good scenarios, and you can place probabilities on them, but you can't make a predict. But there's no way you can place a prediction on any one of them coming true. So are they going to try and steal specific? What they're trying to do now is they're trying to find the cocktail of issues that they can craft a talking point around and a campaign around for the midterms, in order to try and limit the amount of damage that's going to happen. The Democrats' best case scenario is they only lose 40 seats in the House. Their worst case scenario is that they lose 100. Okay. So now the bigger question is the GOP doing everything imaginable to stop the MAGA wave within the GOP, the insurrection within the GOP, and put a whole bunch of GOP Mitt Romney types in place so that it can be meet the new boss, same as the old boss, which is, and Davos is clearly starting to shift its weight away from the Democrats and allowing Joe Biden to be left out to hang. And, because you can see it within the dynamic between the US and the European Union over how to deal with the war going forward. Europe now wants to settle. The United States and the Brits absolutely do not want to. That's coming from the Biden administration. We've radicalized, the Republicans in Congress who don't want to pay Putin any money for frickin' oil, but, don't want to reward him for invading a sovereign country, even though Ukraine hasn't been sovereign since ever.
Since
we the took it concept over of Ukrainian sovereignty is like fucking laughable as, a benevolent dictator. Like, it's not true. Like, it's laughable. It's never been a sovereign country. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. The borders were always bullshit. Okay, because it's always been the plaything of vaster powers, be it they Russian or American or European. It doesn't matter. So everybody's fighting over it, and it's going to be carved up into 6 or 7 different pieces, most of which are going to wind up in Russia, like it or not. And the cognitive dissonance of them creating this PR campaign that the plucky Ukrainians are winning against the evil Russians is now going to, that's the next shoe to drop for them. That's what's in the process of failing now, where all of a sudden Americans who are now staring at $7 a gallon gasoline or $6 a gallon diesel fuel or $8 a gallon diesel fuel, and they can't get food for their kids, and they can't afford to drive to work, and they can't do this and they can't do that. I'm like, they're going to take their Ukrainian flags down off of their front lawns. Like when the Social Security check starts,
they're going to change their profile picture. They're going to take.
They might even
out.
change their profile picture. They may even stop virtue signal.
Christ Almighty.
They may even stop listening to Fox News on the right, and they may finally stop listening to PMSNBC on the left. Like, it's all bullshit. And maybe the real awakening, and this is, again, I was talking with Garland Nixon about this yesterday, and Garland's freaking killing it. He's getting picked up in multiple markets, terrestrial radio markets. His show's ratings are off the charts. He's aggregating both the quote unquote left and the right, and they're both going, yeah, we've been lied to about everything, and most particularly we've been lied to about what's going on in Ukraine. And to watch, like, most magatards still labor under this idea that that Putin's the only one at fault in Ukraine is insane, when they forget that their savior that they love, Donald Trump, was impeached for Joe Biden's crimes in Ukraine. Like, how dumb do you have to fucking be? Like, I know people are dumb. I get it. I know people are uninformed, and I know most people are just don't give a shit about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
There comes a point where you have to be able to ask basic freaking questions of yourself and not go, well, that's wrong. You don't invade the sovereign country. Okay, fine. If that's your heuristic, but it's a dumb heuristic when you realize that, we overthrew a duly elected government in 2014, and the Russians don't consider the government that's been in Kiev for the last, I refuse to call it Kyiv. Fuck that. It's Kiev. Yeah. Like, the whole fucking Ukrainian, like, we Ukrainified all of English to these fucking people. It's Kyiv, my ass. It's been Kiev for fucking 300 fucking years. Get the fuck over yourself. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry. Dude, the Russians don't recognize the Zelensky government as legitimate. They never recognized Poroshenko as legitimate because Yanukovych was overthrown in a violent coup. And the only reason Yanukovych is still alive is because they smuggled his ass out before he was lynched. And if it was up to the Russians, and they did take over Kyiv in February, I got news for you. Yanukovych would be president right now, signing a fucking ceasefire agreement, and all this shit would be over and done with. And Boris Johnson would be like, oh my God, get me another mound of coke. I don't know what to fucking do. The British Empire is about to fall because that's what's going on here. Like, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, again, back to, I talk about the classic third generation feckless twit. How about inbred idiot Boris Johnson himself, the current steward of what's left of the British Empire? God, holy shit! And I'm supposed to think that these people are on my side, and they have my best interests at heart. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, if I have to choose between Boris Johnson and Putin, at least Putin will give me a fair shake. Yeah. By the way, this is what we're doing. Don't like it? Doesn't matter. This is what we're doing. At least he's honest about it. And here's why we're doing it. Now, when you people want to actually apply your own rules, consistently, hey, I'm all for it. Let's sit down and have some caviar, pour some vodka. Let's hash this shit out and sign an agreement.
Go to the Bavarian castle.
Yeah. No, we can't do that.
No, we can't. Yeah.
No, we can't have nice things.
I was thinking, just as an aside, I wonder if the NSA has something monitoring the internet for Ukrainian flag profiles, and once that number starts to dip, if they're gonna move to DEFCON 2 or DEFCON whisk Biden away to Cheyenne Mountain.
Sure.
But I do think that we're starting to see the incompetence more. I've listened to this one book several times. It's my favorite nonfiction book, Raven Rock by Garrett Graff. I've interviewed him twice over the last 2 years. Listened to the book 10 plus times. It's all about continuity of government, continuity of operations, and enduring constitutional government. Nuclear bunkers, lines of succession, from who takes over after VP, all the way down to the helicopters landing on which lawns, picking up which senators, and your car. It's badass. It reads like a Tom Clancy book, and it's all true. But as he points out towards the end, he goes from FDR till present day, and like the most he wrote it while Obama was in office, so like till present day, we talking the deep national security state is we were always convinced that we were just one more chart away from having nuclear war and Armageddon completely planned out. We were just one more from the number of from the number of MREs and from the number of dollar bills that we had stowed away so that we could restart an economy with like a uniform currency, from the amount of antibiotics we had stored in this place, and on and on and on. They were always convinced that they're just one more chart, one more flow chart away from
Right.
buttoning up nuclear war. But like what you were saying earlier, hey, it's not always that CH3 plus H2 with platinum and heat. Hey, sometimes you don't just get one thing. It's not always, what do you mean there's a triple bond in there? That's what they realize after decades of planning is.
Yeah, no, it's a McNamara. My friend and partner Dexter White talks about it. It's the McNamara problem of running government. The McNamara always
the whiz kids,
right, just thinks that all we need is to have all we need to have is if we just lay out the spreadsheets, it'll all be good. And it doesn't work. And human beings aren't fungible that way. They don't work that way. They never have, and they never will. And everything always costs more. And everything always.
It's also asymptotic.
What's that?
It's also
it's asymptotic. It's absolutely
you got to put more and more in for that.
Yes, no, it's Pareto. Pareto, like you're absolutely right, Tommy. I love. My God, you're the only other person on the planet who uses the word asymptotic. I'm coming on your show whenever you want. Like fuck that. Like it's my favorite word in the English language. Because as you approach efficiency gains, you can't get, you're working for less and less and less for an ever increasing cost. Every order of Pareto is orders of magnitude harder to pull off for lesser and lesser gains. And there comes a point where you just have to cut it off and say, this is as good as you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And, you can describe it as Zeno's paradox. You can describe it however you want, but this is the way the world works. And it really is the law of diminishing marginal utility as applied to all of our behavior. There comes a point where people are not going to be, they're going to go, look, I don't need any more of that, or I don't want any more of that. And I'm not going to, and no matter how much you try and spoon feed it to me, I don't want it. I don't need it. Like I'm not thirsty. I don't need any more fucking water. Like go away. And when you realize that in order to push people to get them to where you think you need to get them in order to get enough stuff in order to be able to do the thing, like once you realize that costs you 3 times the amount of money and time and resources and manpower to procure the first order, then you thought you're fucked for the second order. You're fucked for the next thing down the line. You're fucked for everything else. And all you've done is, because by taking those stores of antibiotics or all the other things, when you take those out of the private economy, you take them, when you expropriate, not appropriate, but expropriate that capital, you've taken it out of the productive economy that cannot now use that to build future wealth. You've just made everybody fucking poor and created a stash of antibiotics over in a corner that don't do anything, that we don't need, because we've got plenty of antibiotics in real life. Like, so what do we have? Like, what we have is a whole bunch of people who've diverted trillions and trillions of dollars, of years of man-years of people's lives, of American people's lives. And we've blown it on the equivalent, literally the equivalent of hookers and blow for a bunch of fucking crazy narcissistic control freaks.
Yeah.
That's it. It's all we've done.
Yeah.
And it's not in national, and it's in no one's national security. It's all in their freaking, crazed lunacy of wanting to beat the Russians. And I don't, like that's all this is about at the end of the day. It's like there's this crazy ideology of many of these people who just have a desperate need to destroy the Russians because the Russians refuse to stop saying no.
Yeah.
And they've been saying no to the Brits for 150 years, and no one's allowed to say no to the Brits. And we're still dealing with the aftermath of this this true insanity. And I'm sorry, but it's time for us all to go, you know what? No, enough. And when I look at the landscape today, I ask myself, who's saying no? When you push people to the brink of 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 insanity, when you bring people to the brink of survival, and in this case, I'm talking now about the commercial banking system here in the United States, and the Russian people in Russia and Asia in general, like, who's caught in the middle? Europe and the West, run by a bunch of third generation spoiled brats who still think they're playing SimCity.
Hey, I gotta go pee real quick. Plug your stuff.
So, all right. You can follow my work over at my blog over at tommyluongo.me. You can follow me on Twitter at TFL1728. On the Patreon, every month we do a monthly newsletter. We've been doing it for almost 5 years now, where we have a bespoke portfolio of stock picks and whatnot to try and make sense of all this, and to take all the geopolitical analysis and turn it into a viable portfolio strategy to just kind of help simplify how you should de-stress your investment decisions, even though this is the most stressful time to be alive, and it may not even work at this point. It's also all, individual or exclusive content, and we at this point, I do so much of my content is actually behind the paywall, be it twice weekly market reports, where I go over important data for people, or important markets for people, as well as do bespoke research for them, and test out ideas and thesis in private blog posts on a regular basis. So that's what we do. Let's try and make sense of all this.
I think I don't know, you said top out at 90 minutes. So you good for not, can you squeak out another 30?
Maybe
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It might only take, I don't even know how long.
Yeah. If you got a couple more things to kind of wrap up,
sure.
I'm getting really tired. I'm actually starting to get a little tired. So
I got you. So we'll make it quick. I guess to circle back to what you were saying at the beginning, when I said, some days I think we're going to get out of it, and I can't put a finger on why. I think just throughout this discussion, I'm starting to maybe understand why. And it's because the things that we were talking about that we love, the scientific, it's determined, there's no free will, wild card. There's no what happens if there's an EMP burst or a broken pipe. It's just you add the alkene plus the hydrogen, and you get your shit.
Right.
The variables tend to just, they want it to, you can't perfect it down to a T. You can't figure it all out. The system doesn't want to be pushed that far. And again, like we said, asymptotic, it seems to be built into the actual systems. I mean, even look at like getting something to go up to the speed of light, right? It takes more and more energy to just get it going a little more. I think that is where my positivity comes in. Is like, I can't possibly understand this whole system. No one ever has been able to. That's why no one has a lasting empire. They all fall.
Right.
But there is something in the system where they're pushing too hard and too fast. And I mean, like trying to vaccinate your way out of a pandemic, when you squash down on YouTube, you get Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, you get all these things popping up on every side. And they're these weird kind of evolutionary like deviance, and it's pushing more and more. And the harder you push down, you're not just getting your expected, fuck Joe Biden, I didn't like him. You're now getting people that are like, hey, I've got the Ukraine flag, I wore my BLM shirt, and it cost $11 a gallon. Like, I can't find baby formula.
Right.
And they're saying, well, we have the first gay black press secretary, and you're like, hey, that's all well and good, but like I can't provide for my family.
And she's an idiot, and
she's a dipshit.
who cares?
Who gives a fuck?
Why is that your priority?
But that's what
Like,
I mean is
yeah, no,
now.
exactly. No, you're exactly right, Tommy. And there comes a point where, you've made all of these advances because you're talking about advances to people who are not starving,
Yeah.
to people who are not in trouble, who have not been, who haven't in a long, 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 long time remember what it was like to be young and hungry.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we're dealing with a lot of, like frankly, overeducated middle-class white people who are still haven't lost everything yet.
Yeah.
And they forgot what it was, and they forgot what it looked like in 2008 when a lot of families lost everything. And 14 years worth of crazy fed bucks, underwriting everybody's lifestyle. And now the Fed is actively saying we can't do this. And honestly, on my read, I think Jerome Powell's been trying to say this since he first took over, and he's been sabotaged at every turn, if you want my honest opinion. And when I really go back and look over Powell's, term as Fed president, Trump was pissed off at him that he was raising interest rates because Trump wanted easy money, and this one wanted easy money, and yada yada yada. And Powell was saying we can't afford this anymore. We have to stop this. And if we don't stop this now, the people who are taking advantage of this are not Americans. They're the globalists who are getting the money. It's the very people who overthrew Donald Trump, who told you for 4 years that Trump was a Russian agent, okay, that tried to give you Hillary Clinton and previously gave you Barack Obama, okay. But got news for you. These people are the ones who set this stuff in motion. And Powell was basically saying we need to just take away their punch bowl,
Yeah.
and let it and let their and if they want to destroy themselves. If Europe wants to destroy itself, we go right ahead and do so, but we're not going to subsidize it anymore. And I'm sorry to all of my brethren in this, in the nominal anti-US empire punditry set, that I'm not an unrepentantly sympathetic European leftist. I'm not. I'm an American hardcore right-wing libertarian who looks at the shit and goes, everybody's freaking dirty and the European commies need to be fucking killed. Done. And then by doing that, we can destroy what's left of the American empire in the process. But the order of operations here is that Europe needs to die. Europe needs to die because Europe has been subsidized and has destroyed and turned. It's the subsidization of Europe over the last 75 years, which turned the United States into a vicious empire. And it can be rejiggered. It can be brought low and recalibrated. But the only way we do that is by cutting everybody off in the monetary herald. And you let it all liquidate. And a lot of people are going to lose a lot of power. But not everybody is going to lose all their power. Most of the people that we've talked about in this podcast so far today, they're going to lose their power. People on Wall Street, they're going to lose 75% of the power they currently have. The people on Capitol Hill that currently wield too much power are going to lose 75% of their power. They're not going to lose it all. But I got news for you. The European Union won't survive the decade. And is that not a better outcome for humanity? Or are you so doctrinaire in your leftism that you can't understand the beauty of the decentralized nature of the federal system that is the United States, which actually stopped the Great Reset cold simply because Ron DeSantis stood up and said, you know what? Fuck you. One fucking guy with one legislature in one state in the United States stood up proud, said, that's enough, no more. And started putting people in jail. That's all it took. That's why he's going to be president in 2024. And I'm telling you, New York is turning into a museum. Right-wing media is coming to South Florida. The hedge fund set are all moving to South Florida. The money is all moving to Florida in the United States. The money power base is moving to Florida. It's why they're desperate to try and figure out how to kill us all. It's why the Biden administration is trying to pull out our ability, or is putting pressure on insurance companies to leave the state, so the next time a hurricane comes through, we won't be able to rebuild our houses. This is what we're dealing with. These are the kinds of vandals we're dealing with. This is how much Obama hates America. This is how much Obama hates you. Hates all of us. Done. I'm done. That's it. I don't care anymore. Fuck Europe. Fuck Japan. Fuck all these people. Fuck most of the United States, as far as I'm concerned. Y'all allowed this shit to happen while you played these stupid red-blue games. We're all standing here telling you what needed to be done. Right after 9/11. You didn't want to listen to us then. All you nationalist conservatives, and all you newly minted warmongering friggin' lefties. After 9/11, while the libertarians were standing there going, oh, by the way, don't let us go to war. Don't let them build the national security state. Don't give Rumsfeld more money. Don't give Condoleezza Rice more time. Don't empower Dick Cheney. Don't empower Wolfowitz and all the rest of these people. You allowed it to happen. I'm happy to bring you back on board the team, but you don't get to come back on board and tell me that when I grow up, I'll stop being a libertarian. Fuck all you people. Fuck Europe. It needs to die as a concept. Everything about European society has become toxic. And every European I talk to about this says exactly the same thing I do. I'm not saying anything that they don't say. They've lost their way down this fugue of egalitarianism and this fugue of friggin' communism, third way communism, because they've been subsidized by cheap money that has corrupted everything about their body politic. And they've destroyed their own cultures. The French couldn't even hold their nose long enough to vote for Marine Le Pen to get rid of Emmanuel Macron, the most odious person to lead France since Louis the 16th? Seriously? You couldn't hold your nose and go, yeah, I can vote for Le Pen. I don't like the woman, but I can vote for her. That's beyond the pale. I'm center left. Okay, fine. Be center left while you get overrun by millions of Africans that are going to be hoarded into France by George Soros over the next 5 years. I don't care. But I know that I'm never visiting Europe. You couldn't pay me to go. It's bad enough. It's bad enough. It's bad enough I venture into Gainesville, for Christ's sake. Too many people still wearing masks on there. They make me sick to my stomach. All right, I'm done.
No, that was
a good conversation. I just lost it. So
no, what are you talking about? That was incredible. Fuck you. That wasn't bad. That was wonderful.
Oh no, I'm at that point where every time I go on my fuck Europe rant anymore, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna lose my platform at some point.
Well, who gives a shit? It was awesome. What I was gonna say is, well, one, they are subsidized by the U.S. military. They haven't had to take care of themselves, so they could have these they could do, they could play house, they could play perfect society, because America's evil. As soon as shit hits the fan, they all turn to Daddy America and they go, thank God for those waves of B-52s and Abrams tanks.
Well, or even worse than that, Tommy. Now they're like, now they want they want an independent foreign policy, and I'm like, good, give it to them. We don't need NATO. NATO was useless 30 years ago.
Yeah.
They want that. That's what Davos is trying to create with this war in Ukraine. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to destroy the United States, what's left of the United States credibility on the world stage in the process. Now, that I won't stand for. I'm not much of a patriot, right? I don't have a whole lot of love for my government. I don't even really have a whole lot of love for the myth of America anymore. Okay. But I love my community. I love my family. I love my people. And I love, I love the idea of rebuilding a world that's gone wrong. And I'm going to do so with every erg of my being, that I do it truthfully. Okay. And if I have to say, I was at my local feed store the other day. I've told this story before. I turned to the people who run the feed store, and I'm like, barely get any hay right now, barely getting any freaking goat feed. Can't sell any goats because it's been crazy dry and then too wet, and no one can afford to feed them. And the feed's $20 a bag, and crappy hay is $10 a bale. I mean, it's insane the cost. But I said to the people around the store, I'm glad you're still in business. I'll be here. I'm not complaining about the prices at all because I understand. But we have to stop thinking about ourselves in terms of country. It's not a country anymore. We live here in this little town in North Florida. Our economy, your economy matters. Everything that you can source has to come within 50 miles of this place. The feed, the hay, the all of it. It has to come from, that's where we have to figure out how to make that work. Otherwise, we're not going to survive. We have to shore up the local food production. We have to make sure that our local farmers that are struggling to get proper prices at auction for their cows. Now we give them top dollar. They don't go to auction to go feed a bunch of ungrateful fucking purple-haired jackasses up in fucking New York, in Brooklyn, who are going to then turn around and steal our freaking money from us and tell us that we're bad people. It's the same thing with the fucking Europeans telling us we're bad people. Oh, well, you Americans are just so uncouth. And so, well, fuck all of you. You can't feed yourselves. What the fuck are you so up your own ass about? What have you ever done except start wars with each other and exterminate each other over cultural divides? Like, why am I supposed to care about you people again? Why am I supposed to look at Germans and think that they've ever contributed anything other than misery to the fucking world? I mean, I bet the best thing I can say about Germans is most of their board game designers are good. Like, okay, Stefan Feld. I can go with Stefan Feld and Reiner Knizia. Fuck everybody else. Like, on Balance versus Hitler, I'm just not buying it. Or Klaus Schwab. Or Ursula von der Leyen.
Oh, fuck that bitch.
Like, fuck you people. Like, at the end of the day, I'm supposed to give a shit? Like, my fucking people ran the world for 1,000 years, figured out that it was the worst goddamn job on the planet, and has had a tenuous relationship with government for 1,500 years since then. We have it right. Other than the mafia in Rome that thinks the world shouldn't advance anymore because they got in bed with fucking Germans and Brits. I will not say what I'm going to say next. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm done. If I keep going, it's going to get really bad. So
I like it.
No, this is the problem, and this needs to end. The European Union is the Soviet Union rewritten with better makeup. Like, that's it. And worse teeth. Because have you ever seen the teeth of Kiefer Hofstad? Ooh, Jesus. Like, people can't even feed yourselves, for Christ's sake. And we're supposed to think you're insouciant and wise. Fuck you. You're just a bunch of arrogant Dutchmen. Like, that's it. Like, what else you got?
Oh, so what I was going to, no, I fucking love it, dude. What I wanted to say is, no, I think there actually is there is a way to sort of wrap this up that right. Does make sense. And to me, it's everything you just said and everything I've said throughout this. I don't think you and I are breaking new ground. I think you and I both have microphones, and I have a tiny following. You have a bigger one, but we both have sort of our own cyber communities of people who fall, and like, we're sort of quote unquote allowed to do this because we don't have to go to the cubicle on Monday and get weird looks from everybody else. But I think what you're seeing right now is more and more people are willing to sort of vocalize these things. And you couldn't do it before when all of big tech made you feel like you were alone. Yes. When you're in a football stadium and you see 100,000 people all wearing the same jersey as you know you're on this team.
Right.
But when you're in a cubicle, at a soundproof cubicle, and you can't see anything else, you don't know if you're one of millions or if you're one of 3 people.
Right.
And I think what we're seeing now is it's this perfect storm that only a supercomputer could understand. it's entropy. It's going back towards an equilibrium.
Mhm.
Is more and more people are boiling over and talking out about this, and more. And I think the biggest reckoning is going to be this, and it might it might almost be monumental. It might be tiny. It might be a as opposed to this bang. And I think it could come from when it becomes clear how much of the internet is bots, and I'll explain it.
Oh yeah. No. You
Is
don't have to go. Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
agree.
I think because right now a lot of people have your thoughts. Fuck this. They have my thoughts. What the fuck is going on? But they kind of just shut up and put their head down because you go online and it's 90,000 people like this tweet that says that Klaus Schwab's good, and 4 people like this tweet that says the 2020 election is stolen. Well, it's basic human psychology. I don't want to be part of the out crowd. They did that thing that they think like what 50% of Joe Biden's followers on Twitter are bots.
Well, yeah, they're bots.
I think if they could actually do some sort of purge or clarification, people are going to see where they really stand.
Yeah.
And I
No,
I really think it's going to be something like this. I think Elon Musk is going to start doing some blockchain exit poll or something and be like if Elon tweeted right now, who really won the 2020 election? Who won the 2020 election? We both know the majority would be Trump.
exactly.
I think we're at this tipping point where people are going to, this is the crux of what I'm getting at, is they're realizing they're not alone. They have these Tom Luongo rants in their head, but they go, I can't say that. I can't say that. The reality is, it's like when you say, sorry, I go on a rant, and I'm going, no, I agree with everything you're saying.
Right.
I don't think we're unique. I think most people
No,
go,
I
yeah,
know we're not. I know we're not unique.
yeah,
I worry about. I worry about taking it one step too far and running afoul of obviously the censors. Like I like having a platform. Why I start to try and pull it back is that I fully recognize that I can't be the fully unvarnished version of myself that everybody would like me to be, because and which at times they've seen over the last 5 or 6 years of me doing this, because every once in a while it just comes right out and I can't help myself, and then I got to delete the video. And I'm dead serious when I do this.
gotcha.
Because when I say this, because I understand that there's certain things you just can't say if you want to keep a business.
Yeah.
And like, okay, well I also think that at a certain level, and I've explained this as well in the past, to say, look, because I've gotten on shows and they opened up with, hey, let's talk about the Khazari Mafia. I'm like, hey, let's not. Like, what's the point? Is it going to make you feel good? Because it's going to get me banished. It's going to do away with my ability to make a living, continue to do what I'm doing, help people, as many people as possible, and feed my fucking family. So maybe we shouldn't have that conversation. Oh, is that but that's going to make you feel good? Like, I don't, this is where the bots come in, and then they start attacking you on comment threads on YouTube or this place or that place. Oh, come on, man. Don't shy away from, naming the like, what's the point? Is that going to just to make you feel good? You can go ahead and do that. You're just some fucking nobody on the internet. Like, I don't need to do that. I don't even think it's worth doing, because half the time it's not even correct.
Yeah.
So what's the point? But we're also freaking angry that it's not hard to get somebody to go off on a rant that is like, I think it's safe to say fuck Europe, because it's clear that the Europeans have embraced Nazism.
Yeah.
I don't even think I don't even think that's controversial at this point.
Yeah. They want the boot.
They're defending Ukraine, and Ukraine is literally we took and nurtured the Azov battalion and made it a part of their freaking government and made it the most powerful fighting force within the Ukrainian military. Like, you can't deny that. You can try and tell people that, well, no, they're not really Nazis. Okay, until well, how about this picture? There's John McCain standing right next to this guy with a fucking swastika in his hand. Maybe Putin's got a point. Just saying. This is where I am. I'm done. And I'd like to have a more nuanced conversation about some of this stuff, but we can't have that anymore, because we're now down to just shit flinging monkeys. Okay, fine. We're going to shit. Okay, we're shit flinging monkeys. I'm slinging shit at Europe. Done. Until Europe stops slinging shit at everybody else. So Europe stops stealing my money and slinging it back at me. Like, I'm done with it. I don't care. And I'm done with shit libs over here telling me that, we're all this terribly backwards and we don't have any, because Florida man is just silly. I'm like, yeah, you tried to meme Florida man into it. Have you noticed how they tried to meme Florida man into some kind of crazy redneck dude? And he turns out to be like the hero of the internet. Because 9 times out of 10, when they go, oh, Florida man, tried to wrestle an alligator. Yeah. And he succeeded and he saved a friggin' dog.
And he butt fucked the alligator and decapitated
And he butt fucked the alligator in the process and didn't either one lose the cigar in his mouth or drop his beer
or spill his fucking drink. Yeah,
exactly.
They say Florida man. It's like when people say an AR-15 is a weapon of war designed to kill. Yeah, and that's why I have it.
And you're you're confused by this. How? Is it any different than an M1 Garand? By the way, that shoots 30-06, which will fuck you up a hell of a lot more than 223 will.
M1 Garand will fucking ruin your day. But in terms of Florida, I mean, there's a perfect example.
And your children's day and the guy standing behind him's day.
I got to last week, actually the night I got my concussion, not related, but I actually got to hang out with Anthony Sabatini at a fundraiser. I got to shoot some M60s. It was fucking awesome. Yeah, man, you can Florida man him all you want. That motherfucker's coming for you. He's behind DeSantis. I got to have dinner with him. That dude could, drop of a hat, sat there and talk for 20 minutes, not just on, well, we got to raise taxes here. I mean, dropping down to the Westphalian logic of this world from Plato till now. What is at stake? You can Florida man him all you want.
That's right.
That's a guy.
This is the point about Florida man. Florida man is freaking awesome.
Yeah,
and everybody realizes it now.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. But they tried really, really hard, and you guys are living up. And I know you worldly some 30 somethings up in fucking Brooklyn think you know things because you have got Google, because you've got the Google. But you don't know anything, and you've never been to Florida, and you've never. And then when you have come to Florida, what do? You walk around you walk around West Palm Beach and think you understand Florida. Dude, I'll tell you where you go in Florida. You come to my neck of the woods, and you spend a week in a cow town like Lake City or Old Town. Okay. And then you tell me what you think Florida really looks like. Because it doesn't look like that feckless shit in the long triangle, the long rectangle down in the East Coast. Okay? Because these are the people that grow the fucking food. These are the people who know how to shoot guns. These are the people who know how to wrestle fucking alligators. These are the people who know how to live with mosquitoes the size of Volkswagens. Fuck you. That's what I have to say. Fuck you. And I'll put us up against you any day of the week and twice on Sunday. And we'll still kick your ass, and we'll wait until after church in order to do it. Even if it's a dry county where we're not allowed to drink any beer, which we have.
I know. I lived in Georgia for 15 years.
Now just like it's that time that it's a Sunday. If you didn't get your alcohol yesterday, you're shit out of luck.
Shit out of luck, you dipshit. Yeah. In closing, I'll say, what I feel like right now is we're at this point where because of our technology, it's Marie Antoinette saying, let them eat cake. And because of bots, they're all saying, that's fine with me. I like cake. And the few people that are going, does anyone think that was a little out of touch? They're getting shadow banned. They're being told to fuck off.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, all the bots go away and everyone looks around and goes, did she really just say, let them eat cake? Mm-hmm. And there are no bots to say, oh, put your pitchforks down.
Yes.
That's what I think we're rapidly approaching. I don't think it's going to be anything new. I think it's going to be the revelation that you're not alone.
Yeah, I think Elon Musk's bid to expose Twitter for what it is, even if he doesn't wind up buying the company, I think it's still one of the greatest public services that a guy can do. And I don't trust Musk as far as I can throw him. And there's many things about him that I don't trust, but it doesn't matter. No one has to be all good or all bad. We are not 9 years old. Okay.
It's OChem. You're not going to get 100%.
Darth Vader wore black, but the stormtroopers wore white, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't forget, and the imperial officers all wore gray.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this is, you have to realize that the world is far more complicated than you want to give it credit for. You take your wins where you can get them, and you reward the behavior you like, and you punish the behavior you do not like, and you ignore the behavior you don't like. This is the first rule of good parenting. And I'm not going to say that I'm a good parent, but I've tried my very best as a parent to do this, to remember those adages when dealing with my daughter. We all make mistakes. We have our lives. But that's the basic premise. And that's the way you have to treat your government. It's the way you have to treat everybody around you. It's the way you have to treat your friends and your family and everybody else. And you reward the behavior that you want to see more of in the world, and you ignore the behavior you do not. And the truth of the matter is the best way to deal with the bots on Twitter is to not engage with them, and realize that they're far more sophisticated today than they were even 3 years ago. Where people who are really good at figuring out who is and who isn't a bot are like, holy shit, you're good. You're a bot. I've just been talking with a bot for the last 20 minutes. I'm at the point now where anybody who gives me shit on Twitter, I assume is a bot. And if they have less than 100 followers, I block them immediately. Done. I don't care if they have half a real profile or they don't have a real profile. And if I block people out of, reflexively that are actual real people and you don't like it, well, tough shit. Like, this is the world we live in. I don't have time to interact with bots. I like Twitter. I like to use Twitter because I see it as a very valuable tool. And when I want to converse in an echo chamber with nobody else, I'll go to Gab. I'll go back to Gab. I don't give a shit, but I'm going to stay on Twitter for as long as they're going to allow me to stay there. And I'm going to use it to my advantage to say what needs to be said in my way. And, if I block a few people who aren't bots, well, life's a bitch. That's the way life is. Next time, do a better job of interacting. Because I don't have to argue. I'm not here to argue with you on Twitter and to try and win an argument. If anybody thinks that Twitter is there for argumentative purposes, you're out of your mind. It's not there for that at all. It's there to broadcast how much of an asshole you are to the rest of the world and get people to go, yeah, he's my asshole. I like that asshole. I don't like that asshole. I'm going to curate that asshole's content and not that asshole's content. Cool. It's the way it's supposed to work. And everything else about Twitter is irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. It is not a dopamine injection system. That's what they want it to be. Don't use it that way. Use it as a means by, you should inject your own dopamine into the world. I just said something horrible and horrendous and evil. Awesome. And I didn't get banned. Winner. We need more of that in the world and less of everything else. Because that's what the essence of free speech is. As long as it's not untruthful and as long as it's not really hurtful.
Yeah.
And that's the way it needs to be. And we all need to, a lot more Lenny Bruce, a lot less, I don't know. I don't even know, even pick a decent fucking comedian today. Is there one?
Tim Dillon.
What's that?
Tim Dillon.
I mean, no, pick a bad one. Give me a milquetoast one, and there's so many of them. Like, oh, sorry, a little bit more Lenny Bruce, a lot less fucking Stephen Colbert.
Oh, that cocksucking soulless.
He's a fucking prick. That guy. What
that
a fucking
guy,
faggot that guy.
That guy went to the Bavarian castle. That guy went to the guys with the goat masks. And said, I want to be a comedian. And they said, do you know how much this castle costs?
This castle costs,
You're going to plug the vaccine to millions of people. Do you know how much this fucking mRNA depopulation plan cost us? You're going to go back to that stage and you are going to read the Illuminati script, you motherfucker. You're not going to be a comedian.
It's the old Bill Hicks routine. So
an angle
back again, eh?
Yeah.
Suck Satan's cock. Yeah. That's where we need to be.
It's Absolutely. Bill Hicks. They bring you into the back room and they show you an angle of this Bruder film that you've never quite seen before. And they say, any questions? And you go, what's my agenda? Back and to the left. Back and to the left. Back and to the left. See, more Bill Hicks, less Stephen.
More Bill Hicks. Oh, yeah, I know.
Diarrheal one. So, in conclusion, I am optimistic.
Yeah,
I am. I think the system, we can't get 100% of this one chemical product, but you also can't get 0%. The system wants a certain amount of just what it is at rest. and I think we're gonna have it, and I think it's gonna manifest itself in a way that you and I can't imagine. I don't know what
I
it will be.
I can't predict it, and I think you're right, and I'm happy to not predict what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Just know that what's coming, they don't have any control over.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, their attempts to control it are what's going to cause most of the damage. So, do your best to just you keep as much of your head down as possible while being as Bill Hicks as you can. Like it's you got to just walk that line.
Yeah. Yeah. Find
So,
God, and you'll be good. It'll all be good. I'm not
all
worried
right,
about
Tom.
it. I should be, but my brain's broken. I think this is the first conversation I've had where I just realized just how much this concussion's handicapping me. I was
Yeah.
searching for words and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, no, that's hard. It's got to be hard. I've never had a concussion, and you
Me
have my
neither.
sympathies.
Don't. It was self-inflicted. It was alcohol and gravity. It's my own fault.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I played football. I did all sorts of stupid stuff, and I've been knocked in the head in martial arts enough times that I should have had a concussion here or there, but I don't think I ever have had one. But
I feel like a full-on retard wearing these Ray Charles.
But I can tell you that just the stamina of being able to deal with this post-COVID and whatnot has been also really difficult. But Tommy, I've got to run, man.
I know you do. I know
I'm
you
going to lose my mind here.
Absolutely, dude. You're fucking awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll put all the links to your stuff in the description. As always, I'll email you this episode when it's up. Everybody go follow him on Twitter, all that good shit. Speak your mind, more Bill Hicks, less Stephen Colbert. God bless everybody.